Weatherfield has been turned completely upside down, and the cobblestones are buzzing with the biggest mystery we have seen in years. Theo Silverton's incredibly sudden and dramatic departure has left everyone utterly speechless, and honestly, we are all dying to know who is responsible. Theo was not exactly winning any popularity contests, especially after the deeply toxic and manipulative way he treated Todd Grimshaw, making his unexpected finale in that dark alley at the beginning of May the ultimate guessing game. We have a massive whodunit on our hands, and the tea is spilling everywhere. Before we dive into the juicy details, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to CoronationST update so you never miss out on the latest Cobbles drama. The actor behind the villain we all loved to despise, James Cartwright, recently dropped some massive hints about what is coming next. Speaking on the red carpet at the BAFTA Television Awards in London this past Sunday, James could not help but stir the pot. He completely teased the fans, knowing exactly who dealt the final strike to his character, and he promises that viewers are in for a monumental shock. He even joked with reporters, saying that if he spilled the beans, he would have to make them disappear, cheekily asking if that was a price they were willing to pay. It is clear that the cast is just as thrilled by this storyline as we are. James expressed how genuinely blessed and honoured he felt to be part of the show during such a thriving, high-stakes era. He pointed out the brilliance of the writing, calling it a double whammy for the audience. First, we were kept on the edge of our seats wondering who was going to meet their maker, and now we get the absolute thrill of figuring out who caused the untimely passing. 2 bites at the same dramatic cherry. And then James said something that absolutely sent the fandom into a tailspin. He flat out stated, "It is not who you think it is." Let that sink in for a moment. With a lineup of 6 official suspects currently answering tough questions from the authorities, we have to look closely at every single one of them. James playfully threw out some wild possibilities, suggesting it could even be sweet, innocent Summer. He joked that it is unlikely, but maybe she caught him off guard and took him out with a heavy can of beans out the back of the shop. While that sounds hilarious, in the world of soap mysteries, the quiet ones are often the most dangerous, and keeping a sweet facade is the oldest trick in the book. But let us look at the heavy hitters. James mentioned George, pointing out that he is a big, fiercely protective guy who has already shown he is not afraid to get physical when it comes to defending the people he loves. George has been an absolute rock for Todd, stepping into that father figure role with everything he has. Seeing the immense emotional damage Theo inflicted on Todd could easily have pushed George over the edge. We all know George has a good heart, but how far would a good man go to permanently remove a deeply toxic threat from his family's life? If George had a moment of pure red mist, he might have taken matters into his own hands to ensure Theo never caused harm again. Then, of course, we have Todd Grimshaw himself. Todd was the primary target of Theo's incredibly cruel manipulation. Their storyline was intensely hard-hitting, highlighting the devastating reality of deeply controlling relationships. Todd was pushed to his absolute breaking point, emotionally stripped down by a man who thrived on power and control. Could Todd have finally snapped? It is the classic tale of the victim finally reclaiming their power, but perhaps taking it one step too far in the heat of the moment. However, knowing what James Cartwright said about the culprit being a massive surprise, Todd might just be too obvious. The authorities are definitely eyeing him as their prime target, but maybe he is just a highly convenient distraction for the real mastermind who is pulling the strings from the shadows. Let us not forget Gary Windass. Gary's name being on the suspect list instantly raises the stakes to a whole new level. Gary has a deeply colourful past when it comes to dealing with problematic individuals in Weatherfield. He is certainly no stranger to hiding dark secrets and taking extreme measures to protect his community from bad apples. Gary does not have the same deeply personal connection to Theo as Todd or George, But Gary is the exact kind of guy who steps in when he sees an injustice happening right in front of him. Did he witness an altercation in the alley? Did Theo push the wrong buttons on the wrong day? Gary knows exactly how to cover his tracks and keep quiet, which makes him a highly formidable suspect in this entire investigation. Next on the list is Christina Boyd. Now, Christina is a wildly fascinating addition to this lineup. What are her true motives? With Christina, there is always more bubbling under the surface than what she lets on. The connections she holds and the secrets she keeps could easily tie her into Theo's dark web. Theo was not just terrible to Todd, his manipulative nature likely burned bridges all over town, leaving a trail of broken trust. Christina might have had her own deeply personal grievance, a hidden conflict or financial tie that has not entirely come to light yet. If Theo threatened to expose something she was desperately trying to keep hidden, silencing him permanently might have seemed like her only way out. And speaking of hidden conflicts, we absolutely must talk about Danielle, Theo's ex-wife. Hell hath no fury like a woman pushed to the absolute brink by a highly toxic partner. Danielle knows Theo better than anyone else on that street. She knows exactly how his dark mind operates, his weak points, and just how destructive he can be behind closed doors. If anyone had a long-standing, deep-seated motive to see Theo face his ultimate karma, it is her. Was she trying to protect someone else from suffering the exact same fate she did? Or was this pure, unadulterated payback for years of emotional torment? Danielle slipping back into the picture, just as Theo meets his sudden end, is highly suspicious, to say the very least, and she definitely has the street smarts to pull off a complex cover-up. And as James teased, we absolutely cannot rule out the wildcards, like Maggie Driscoll, played by the brilliant Pauline McGlynn. He literally said there are so many people it could be, leaving the door wide open for a shocking twist. The beauty of a storyline like this is that the writers have planted tiny seeds everywhere. The alleyway was dark, the night was chaotic, and Theo had painted a giant target on his own back through his relentless cruelty to everyone he crossed paths with. Right now, the tension on screen is palpable, as the official investigation is fully underway. The authorities are hauling each and every suspect into that brightly lit room, asking the tough questions and trying to poke massive holes in their alibis. Someone on that street is hiding a massive, life-altering secret. But who has the sheer nerve to sit across from the detectives and spin a flawless web of lies without breaking a sweat? Todd is visibly anxious, George is playing the protective card to deflect attention, and Gary is keeping his usual cool, completely detached demeanour. But immense pressure does strange things to people. The cracks are going to start showing soon. You can only keep a secret of this magnitude buried for so long before the guilt, or the terrifying fear of getting caught, begins to eat you alive from the inside out. As dedicated viewers, we have to look closely at the subtle clues hidden in every single episode. Think about the specific timelines. Think about who was noticeably absent during the crucial moments of that fateful May evening. Coronation Street is notorious for leaving tiny breadcrumbs hidden in plain sight. A nervous glance across the pub, a misplaced item in the background, or an alibi that relies just a little too heavily on a highly convenient coincidence. The writers are master manipulators, leading us far down one path, only to pull the rug completely out from under us when we least expect it. James Cartwright's firm insistence that it is not who we think it is means we have to look entirely past the obvious motives. We have to start looking at the accidental scenarios, the split-second crimes of passion, or a completely unexpected, deeply unholy alliance between two characters who desperately wanted Theo gone for good. What if two people were actually involved in this whole mess? What if someone accidentally struck the final blow during a heated argument, but another person discovered the scene and decided to help cover it up just to protect them? Imagine if George found out Todd had a physical altercation with Theo, and George instantly stepped in to move the evidence, entirely compromising himself in the process to save his family? Or what if Summer did actually stumble across the aftermath and is hiding what she saw out of sheer terror that the culprit will come for her next? The psychological weight of this entire event is rippling through the community. Every single conversation is loaded with double meanings and hidden warnings. Every shared look between the suspects carries the heavy weight of extreme suspicion. The narrative surrounding Theo's final days is incredibly intense and brilliantly executed. He was a character deeply entrenched in causing psychological distress to those closest to him. The show handled the delicate nature of his deeply problematic behaviour with such amazing care, bringing important awareness to the subtle, insidious nature of emotional manipulation without crossing the line. It is absolutely no wonder that his sudden departure has sparked such a fierce, massive reaction from the fans. People desperately wanted to see him face the harsh consequences of his terrible actions. But street justice always comes with a massive, life-ruining price tag. Whoever ensured Theo's permanent silence has to live with that extremely heavy burden for the rest of their life. And in Weatherfield, dark secrets have a funny way of clawing their way back to the surface, usually at the absolute worst possible moment for everyone involved. We are actively watching a true masterclass in soap suspense right now. Over the next few weeks, we are going to see watertight alibis completely crumble to dust. We are going to see highly desperate attempts to shift the blame onto innocent bystanders. And we are probably going to see some very shocking accusations surfaced as the authorities rapidly close in on the absolute truth. Who will be the very first person to break under the glaring spotlight? Will the real culprit somehow manage to evade justice completely, framing a perfectly innocent person to take the massive fall in their place? Gary Windass has certainly dodged the severe consequences of his past actions before. Could someone else successfully take a page out of his incredibly dark playbook? The anticipation is absolute agony, but that is exactly why we are all utterly glued to our screens every single night. James Cartwright promised us a monumental shock that will leave our jaws on the floor, and Coronation Street rarely fails to deliver on a massive promise like that. Keep your eyes peeled on every tiny background detail, listen extremely closely to every overly defensive remark, and absolutely trust no one. The famous Cobbles are hiding a massive, incredibly dark secret, and the undeniable truth is going to completely shatter lives when it finally comes to the blinding light of day.